I have something to say about the difference between American and European cities. But I forgot what it is. I have it written down at home somewhere. You like music? I know. Everybody says they do.
During the run of our Essential Arthouse series, we haven't ever done more than one film a month, so that makes this month particularly special. A double feature should always strengthen the viewing experience of each movie, like pairing wine with your meal. The specific combination is what enhances both of them, or they simply fit too well together to be ignored.
Know what I mean? Or do you?
For this month, I have the pleasure of presenting our very first double feature, True Stories, directed by David Byrne, and Stop Making Sense, directed by Jonathan Demme. While the first is a loose ensemble narrative, and the second a concert film, both demonstrate the creative workings of the band Talking Heads, especially the first since it's directed by the group's frontman. I believe the experience of watching these two films together makes them better, and I'll explain why both are Essential Arthouse films. David Byrne has something of a fixation with the elements that make up normal life. It is just as present in his film True Stories as it is in Talking Heads' discography. The repetition of mentioning human habits like eating dinner, shopping, driving.
Not only driving, but parking.
The focus on architecture and the buildings we work, live, and spend our time in.
Look at this. This is the Varicourt building, just outside Virgil.
There is an implication of there being something deeply poetic hidden in daily life.
Oh, did you fart?
Despite that, their music and the films that center around it are not. True Stories claims to be
about a bunch of people in Virgil, Texas.
But it is quietly, in some ways, a Talking Heads musical, featuring the tracks from their new album at that time of the same name. All of the music in the film is Talking Heads, but not all of it is sung or performed by the band.
Baby, I'm tuned to your wavelength.
David Byrne is both a narrator and a friend to a resident of Virgil, Texas named Lewis.
Hey, there's Lewis!
Hi!
Played by John Goodman, who is the closest thing to a main character the audience is offered.
I'm Lewis Fine, and I'm looking for matrimony with a capital M.
The way the songs break up the loosely threaded narrative of Lewis's search for a wife, interrupted by David Byrne's montage-style history lessons and interactions with other townspeople, provides a strange hybrid that is difficult to pin to any one conventional genre.
Something that's never been understood before is a rhythmic experience. Steve Jobs said that.
Other townspeople fill out the settings and its weirdness, such as a woman who is a compulsive liar.
I was stuck out in the middle of the jungle with the real Rambo.
A woman who never leaves her bed.
Someone besides you deserves mon chéri.
And a man trying to contact aliens.
I send signals up.
In spite of all its absurdity, it has a subtle influence on its cult of viewers, even inventing the famous hot dog buns observational joke later stolen and made famous by Father of the Bride.
You know how hot dogs come 10 to a pack and buns in packs of 8 or 12? You gotta buy 9 packs to make them all match up.
There's a particular sequence in the film I quite like, subtitled Shopping is a Feeling, in which David Byrne's narrator describes the modern American shopping experience.
Shopping mall has replaced the town square as the center of many American cities. Shopping itself has become the activity that brings people together.
The scene works well as a synecdoche for the film. There's a part that feels almost educational, like a documentary, a more scripted dialogue narrative part, and then a musical part.
Shake it up.
The scene also focuses on shopping as a concept in the way the band might explore it in a song. Following a loose storyline, we explore shopping as part of the American identity, and the building it takes place in, and some of the people there. There's even a sort of Barbara Kruger I shop, therefore I am attitude presented in the way the concept of shopping is analyzed. It almost feels academic.
People here are inventing their own system of beliefs.
And at the same time, tonally comedic.
Starving peasants sell their bodies to vampires for blood money.
The tone of this film is actually one of my favorite things about it. It feels like it could be a David Lynch comedy. It's equal parts quirky and unsettling, and I can't put my finger on why.
Do you hear music?
Something wrong with your sister?
At the end of the film, there's a moment where David Byrne describes,
When I first come to a place, I notice all the little details. Then I get used to the place and I don't notice those things anymore. So only by forgetting can I see the place again as it really is.
This endnote thematically wraps up this film because it brings us back to the feeling of romanticizing and being nostalgic for small-town America present throughout the film. Despite both centering around talking heads, Stop Making Sense is simply a traditional concert film. It's often considered to be one of the best of its kind, and that's not without reason. Without getting too technical regarding lighting and cinematography, essentially the film is lit more like a stage musical than a concert. This is done purposefully so as to easier photograph the performers, in a design by David Byrne and Beverly Emmons. The film, shot by Jordan Cronenwell, coming off of Blade Runner, is very interesting in regards to shot composition and duration as well. Some songs only consist of a handful of takes, as Jonathan Demme's basic philosophy for shooting and editing was essentially to let the most interesting thing that was happening on stage play out in real time with few cuts, and often the most interesting thing will be David Byrne. If you want to look much further in depth into the technical aspects of the film, especially the way the film is photographed and lit, there's a great video by Take Me to Your Cinema. I'll leave a link in the description. The film is at least well regarded enough to have been spoofed in a hilarious episode of one of my favorite comedic television shows currently on, Documentary Now. The episode, entitled Final Transmission, spoofs the film perfectly.
Hi, I got a cool little toy. Two left shoes and a dusty coat.
Unlike True Stories, there's no narrative thread or ensemble cast. It simply starts with one man playing guitar, accompanied by a boombox. And as the film progresses, the supporting band becomes larger and larger, and the props and the costumes become wilder. It also happens to have come out 2 years before True Stories, but I would still say you should watch them in this order since the simpler format is easier to digest second. That being said, it is directed by Jonathan Demme, who would later go on to direct The Silence of the Lambs, as well as many other serious Oscar-nominated films. I know that doesn't sound right, but it is the same guy. He's an excellent filmmaker, so there's literally nothing to complain about from a technical standpoint. And considering the fact that the film was assembled from several performances, I especially have to call out the brilliant editing here. Don't worry though, the strangeness of the last film is not gone from this one. There will be just as many satisfying and confusing moments, such as the lamp dance, the big suit, copied by Kanye West,
You're such a fucking hoe.
or Byrne's dance moves in general. The films have a larger historical importance to me as well. Soon after Stop Making Sense and True Stories, the band would break up. In a way, these films are almost like their last hurrah before they realize their best years are behind them.
You know, Lee says, artists don't look in the rearview mirror and they move forward and break up bands, I guess.
If you follow my recommendation and watch these films in reverse order, you get to see a band allow its frontman to push the boundaries and experiment artistically. A quest that would lead to infighting over the band's direction and their eventual demise. And then you get to go out on a high note with the band at their commercial and artistic peak and Stop Making Sense. They are not only extremely relevant to both film history and music history, but they're also a hell of a lot of fun. And if I'm being honest with myself, I can't say every film I've chosen checks both those boxes. Not all films that are this entertaining or easy to watch are considered to be high art. Not all high art films have such commercial or everyday relevance to people who aren't high art film snobs. I think that's what makes True Stories and Stop Making Sense not only an excellent double feature, but also two very deserving essential art house films.